The night had fallen thick and heavy over the dusty stretch of Highway 17. The wind whispered across the lonely road, carrying the scent of rain and gasoline. A flickering neon sign buzzed weakly above Miller's gas stop, one of those forgotten stations that still looked stuck in another decade, cracked tiles, faded posters, and a single flickering light above the pump that painted everything in shades of gold and shadow. It was past 10 p.m., and most travelers had already passed through hours ago, heading toward brighter cities and warmer homes. But one woman hadn't made it that far. Her name was Claire Dawson, a 32-year-old single mother who had been driving for 5 hours straight, her little boy asleep in the back seat of her worn-out sedan. Her fuel gauge had been warning her for the past 30 miles, and when the light began to blink, she sighed, pulling into the lonely station, whispering to herself that it would only take a minute. Claire was exhausted, not just from the drive, but from life itself. Raising a child alone after her husband walked out had been a storm she wasn't prepared for. She worked 2 jobs, cashier by day, cleaning offices by night. Her hands were rough from scrubbing floors, her heart heavier than she let anyone know. But when she looked in her rearview mirror and saw her son, Eli, sleeping peacefully with his small face pressed against the window, she felt the courage to go on. Everything she did was for him. She parked by the pump, stepped out, and hugged her thin jacket tighter as the night wind brushed against her. The world was quiet except for the hum of a flickering bulb, until she heard it. Engines. 3 of them. From the far end of the parking lot, 3 loud motorcycles rolled in, their headlights cutting through the dark like the eyes of beasts. Claire tensed immediately. They weren't the kind of bikes you saw in family parades. These were rough, dented, and loud, and the men riding them didn't look friendly. Leather vests, tattoos, beer bottles in hand. The kind of men who had learned long ago that fear was a weapon. They laughed as they pulled up beside her car, cutting their engines but not their grins. Well, one of them said, stepping off his bike, tall and mean-looking, a cigarette hanging from his mouth. Looks like we found ourselves some late-night company. Claire's fingers trembled as she tried to act normal, pretending to focus on the gas pump. Just getting fuel, she muttered, trying not to make eye contact. Won't take long. The second man, short but broad-shouldered with a scar running across his cheek, took a swig from his bottle and leaned against her car door. Hey sweetheart, no rush. We got all night, he said with a sneer. The third one chuckled, circling behind her car. You traveling alone? That's dangerous, you know. A pretty woman out here in the dark like this, anything could happen. Claire's throat went dry. Her heart pounded as she looked toward the small gas. Claire's throat went dry. Her heart pounded as she looked toward the small gas station store. It was closed. No one inside. The only light came from the old lamp buzzing above her, and the world beyond that circle of light was endless black. She felt trapped, like an animal cornered. Her first thought was Eli. Her baby boy was in that car. Her trembling hands fumbled with the gas nozzle, but one of the thugs stepped closer, his breath heavy with alcohol. Come on, don't be shy, he said. We're just trying to talk. Please, Claire whispered, her voice breaking. My son's asleep. We're just trying to get home. The tallest one leaned closer, smirking cruelly. You should have thought about that before you stopped here, darlin'. He reached out and grabbed her arm. The world froze. Claire's body stiffened, every instinct screamed at her to fight, to scream, to run. But she couldn't leave her son. Let me go, she cried, trying to pull free, but his grip only tightened. The others laughed, closing in, the smell of fuel and smoke filling the air. Eli stirred in the back seat, rubbing his eyes, confusion and fear flickering across his little face as he sat up. Mommy, he called softly. The men turned to look at the boy, and that single innocent word, Mommy, shattered the tension into something darker. The thug with the scar laughed lowly. She's got a kid. Ain't that sweet? Claire's mind raced. She could scream, but who would hear? There were no cars, no passing trucks, no help in sight. Tears burned her eyes. The world felt impossibly small, just her, her son, and these men whose laughter echoed against the cold air like a nightmare. But before the thug could say another word, another sound tore through the night. It was faint at first, like distant thunder. Then louder. Then roaring. Engines again. But not 3 this time. 10. Maybe 12. All of them coming fast. The men froze, looking toward the darkness beyond the highway. Headlights bloomed on the horizon, a line of them, growing brighter and closer, each engine rumbling like an animal growl. The ground itself seemed to tremble. The leader scoffed nervously. What the hell? But before he could finish, the roar became deafening. In seconds, a dozen motorcycles pulled into the station, circling the pumps, their engines loud, steady, and powerful. The bikers that arrived were different, black leather jackets gleaming under the flickering light, helmets shining, their presence heavy and unified like an army. Their jackets bore a patch, Iron Shield's Brotherhood. They surrounded the 3 thugs without a word. The leader of the gang that had harassed Claire swallowed hard, trying to keep his composure. "Hey, we were just talking, here, fellas," he said, stepping back slightly. The largest of the new arrivals, a massive man with a gray beard and piercing eyes, turned off his engine and swung off his bike. He walked toward Claire first, not the men. His boots thudded against the pavement as he approached her gently, his tone calm but commanding. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked, his voice deep, quiet, protective. Claire could only nod, her eyes wide with shock and relief. She couldn't find her voice. Then the man turned to face the thugs. The air went still. "You boys got about 10 seconds to explain why you're standing this close to a woman and her kid out here," he said, stepping forward, the rest of the bikers closing in behind him like a wall. The scarred one raised his hands, stammering, We didn't mean nothin'. Just talkin', like I said." The gray-bearded man tilted his head slightly, his gaze ice-cold. "Funny. Didn't look like talkin'. Looked like trouble." One of the bikers, a woman with braided hair and fire in her eyes, walked to Claire's car and opened the door gently. "You okay, little man?" she asked softly to Eli, who nodded shyly. "My mommy," he whispered. "They were mean to my mommy." The biker woman turned her head slightly toward her brothers. That was all it took. The Iron Shields didn't need more words. The 3 thugs backed up, realizing their mistake too late. They stumbled toward their bikes, mumbling apologies, but the gray-bearded leader stepped in front of them. "You ever see her again, or anyone like her, and you think about tonight," he said. "Because next time, I won't ask questions." His tone wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. Every word carried weight. The thugs nodded frantically, jumped on their bikes, and roared away into the night, their engines fading down the highway until only silence remained. Claire stood frozen beside her car, tears streaming down her face. The adrenaline made her knees weak, but the biker woman caught her before she could fall. "It's okay, honey," she said softly. "You're safe now." Claire managed to whisper, "Thank you. I didn't think anyone would come." The gray-bearded man turned to her, his expression softening. "Ma'am," he said, "you're never alone out here. We look after people on this road. You got nothin' to thank us for." Eli climbed out of the car and ran to his mother, wrapping his small arms around her waist. She held him tight, her heart aching with relief. The Iron Shields watched quietly, a few of them nodding respectfully. The leader looked at her again. "Where you headed?" "Home," Claire said, wiping her tears. "Just trying to get home." He nodded once. "Then we'll ride with you, make sure you get there safe." And so, when Claire got back into her car, she saw a sight she would never forget, a dozen motorcycles forming a line around her vehicle, engines rumbling like guardians of the night. As she pulled back onto the highway, the iron shields rode beside her, their headlights lighting her path. For the first time in years, Claire didn't feel alone. She didn't feel afraid. She felt safe. Protected. The road stretched on ahead, long, quiet, and full of promise. She looked into her rearview mirror and whispered, "Thank you."